So excited that we get an extra Oz Comic Con this year to make up for the ones that we lost during the lockdowns here in Melbourne. How excited are you about being able to head to Australia for Oz Comic Con?
I can't tell you how excited I am. I only wish I had more time in town, but unfortunately the timing of this just worked out. So I'm basically flying in for the convention and I've got to leave immediately after, which pains me because I love Australia and I especially love Melbourne.
What is it about Melbourne that you love? That is my home city. What is it that you love about our city?
So many things. I'll tell you this, even your accent is so familiar to me. A dear friend of mine, Michael Reimer, who I worked with for years, is one of Melbourne's famous and finest directors. We did Battlestar Galactica together, and the actor ear in me can. I found at least I think I can. I can discern between, you know, Melbourne born people and Sydney Australians. It's really interesting to me the subtleties between them. There's so many things I love about the city. It's very much like Vancouver, but to me, kind of like what Vancouver could be. There's a beautiful juxtaposition with the Victorian style architecture there, and then of course all the new modern architecture that you guys have. It's a really stunning city. I'm just so comfortable there. It feels so familiar, even the very first time that I went there. I love how you guys embrace art at every opportunity. I love how there's graffiti in the alleys and huge murals, and just the vibe and the energy of the cafe, the sidewalk cafe culture. It's really really appealing to me, and I like the fact that the weather's changed so much. There's a lot of similarities between Vancouver and Melbourne.
Definitely. And you'll see a lot more art in Melbourne this time around as well. One of the things we've noticed since the pandemic has ended is that the government that's in power at the moment has put a lot of money into the arts. So we're getting a new art gallery and there's new pop-up art galleries everywhere around Melbourne. So I think you'll love that.
This is fantastic news. You can never have enough art. That's just brilliant.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about what you love about coming to these conventions. I had a look online and I've seen that you go to a lot of conventions. What is it that you love about getting out there and meeting your fans at conventions like this?
What's not to love, my friend? I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing conventions since the start of my career, really. I not soon after I started working professionally, I was doing sci-fi conventions, and I'll tell you honestly, in the beginning, it was hard for me to wrap my head around it. The exchange of it, the energy that's required when you do a convention. It was challenging for me in the beginning. I didn't quite understand the whole process. After a few years of really, really like paying attention and communicating with the fans, I understood how reciprocal it is. I understood how the fans who come to these conventions, they want that opportunity, how much it means to them to meet one of the actors of the shows that they adore and that they're fans of. For them to meet them in person and to have a photo with them, even a brief exchange means so much to them. And they're happy with that exchange. And they carry it with them for years. And they'll come back and see you time and time again. It's really a humbling experience for me. I've learned since how to pace myself and how to enjoy myself and make sure that everyone is happy and that I can engage even with a larger convention where you're meeting a huge number of fans. I've learned how to sort of pace myself, but yet so I feel satisfied with the exchange also. The pictures, the talks are always one of my favorites. Going up on stage and doing a Q&A is one of my favorite parts of the convention. It can be really new. Sometimes when you get new questions and you have a really engaged audience, it can be very funny. I love when I'm given new questions and forced to think about different experiences or I'm challenged on a certain show that I did, or a role that I had, or a perspective, or what have you. It keeps me engaged, and it's very collaborative. It's a very live and moving process with the fans that I really enjoy.
You mentioned Battlestar Galactica before, but you have been in so many iconic television shows and movies over the years. Do you find at conventions that you have fans from one show in particular come to see you, or do you find that there's a whole range of fans that come to see you now?
Yeah, because of the wide variety of shows I've done, there always seems to be fans from many different things you've done. And sometimes some of the smaller, obscure things that I've done that not everyone's seen, like for instance, Rift World, which was a small, lower budget thing that I ended up doing. It did air on the CBC here in Canada, but it was a fairly small thing that I did, a very comedic thing about a dimension traveling wizard, and it's, to be honest with you, it's one of the best things I've done. I had a blast doing it. I rarely get the opportunity to do comedy, but it always amazes me when I meet fans at conventions, especially in different parts of the world, and down under it's happened. People like, I saw Rift World. I loved it. It was amazing. That's always really satisfying to me. There are obviously certain fandoms that are much more prevalent and active. Everyone knows the Supernatural fandom. The SBN family is wide and they're all over the world, and they're very active, and they're always at the conventions, regardless of where they are, and I'm always very happy to see them. And of course, I've got my old school Battlestar fans, and even my Dollhouse fans who always show up at every convention.
I was going to ask that with Battlestar Galactica. I was working in a DVD store when that reached its peak on television, and I know that we used to have fans camping out at our store to buy the DVDs when they became available, because this was all pre-streaming. Did you know when you got involved with Battlestar Galactica what the fans were going to be like and how that role would almost change your life?
There was a lot of things that we speculated on, we hoped for. We all had a very good sense in the first season, even after the miniseries, let's be honest, that what we were doing was very unique. It was special. The writing was excellent. The cast was incredible. We had veteran leads who had been in the business for a very long time, and incredibly talented and capable writing staff. So there were many of the factors that you would need, that you would think are key for a show to be successful, were there. But I think it was how unique the show was. Battlestar was very much one of the shows that set the precedent for all the amazing streaming that we see these days, the incredible writing, the breaking the sort of the network confines, the limited parameters that you've seen with the network model for so many years. This was very engaging in adult television, and the writing was really, really just fascinating. It was something new and unique, and there was only a handful of shows at the time that were doing the same thing. You had shows like The Wire and Sopranos and West Wing, but we were one of the first shows that really kind of set this new precedent for what has now become quite common. And social media at the time was in its inception. There were chat rooms and things like this, but there was nothing like we have today. And I had some of the friends on the show who were, they were moonlighting in the chat rooms and checking it out. I know Aaron Douglas and Michael Trucco were tuning in and seeing what people were talking about on these boards and getting a sense of how the fans were reacting. But it wasn't until we started getting some of the press, the real critical acclaim from publications like Time Magazine and, receiving a Peabody Award, that we truly knew how not only the fandom, the general public, were receiving the show, but how the wider industry was receiving the show, and there was no arguing at that point, even at the end of the first or early second season, that we were doing quite well, and the show was being very well received and respected.
Definitely. Now, as a DC fan, one of the roles that I've loved that you've done over the years is voicing Steve Trevor. Tell us a little bit about that. Is voice acting something that you love to do and something that you'd love to do more of?
I'd love to do more. I haven't done a lot. Steve Trevor was a really cool opportunity for me. I had a casting director approach me from my table read for Criminal Minds. I'd been giving a guest role, really cool character, dark character, a bad CIA agent in the 200th episode of Criminal Minds. It was the biggest budget Criminal Minds episode that they had done to that point. The episode was so long that they took out their normal trailer intro and they needed it for more film time for the story. So it's a really powerful episode that I did with Isai Morales and some of the leads of Criminal Minds. They invited me to the table read in LA. I did it, and there's a huge cast. There was a lot of people at that table read, and as a result of the table read, there was another casting director there, and she was the casting director for that project that you mentioned. And she approached me immediately after and asked me if I had done any voice work and if I'd be open to doing some. And I said, of course I would. I hadn't really done any at that point, just a very small amount I'd done with Robot Chicken. And she said, we'd love to have you. And they made an offer, and then I ended up going and doing that role, which was a lot of fun to do, and I would love to do it again. One thing about it, I remember shooting or recording that day for that role, and I didn't feel well. My voice was a bit stressed, but I was rapidly getting sicker as we worked. And what happened is I ended up I had strep throat and didn't even realize it.
Oh, no.
I just barely finished that recording that day, and that evening, this is not something I've told anyone ever, I dropped into a fever and was really, really sick, man. Like nightmares all night, feverish, throat closed off. So the timing of it was, I just scraped by just recording when we did. I barely got out of there, and I never had that opportunity to tell that casting director how sick I was. But since then, I've actually just since in the last 6 months done my first audiobook. So I'm excited about that coming out, and I've already shared that on social media actually just yesterday.
Well, we definitely will be checking that out as well. And I know we are running out of time very, very quickly because you've got another interview to get to. But to wrap up,
I do, yes.
To wrap up, what would you like to say to your fans out there who are thinking about heading along to Oz Comic Con?
Listen, I love Australia. I love Melbourne. The fans are always fantastic there. I think there's a lot of similarities between Canada and Australia, and I've got a lot of Aussie friends, and I'm so excited to be a guest in your city again, and to see my Aussie fans, and to meet the other guests at this show. And I'm just really excited to get there and engage with everybody and have a blast this coming weekend. And I'm really excited about it. So come out and see me. Come, if I've seen you before, come see me again. If I haven't met you yet, come and say hi.